It's happening again. The Phillies are on a losing streak. Keyword again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Philly Sports Now, a Philly fan podcast. My name is Zach. With me is Andrew. We're here to talk all things Philly sports. Now, we just finished watching the third game against the Toronto Blue Jays, where the Phillies lost 8-0. Wait, that can't be right. That's not. Is this not? I have the CBS website up. I know that I knew the Phillies scored one, and as soon as I was like, "Oh, that score was not updated." So great start by me. The Phillies lost 9-1. I watched the game. I don't know what to tell you. I'm reading the score. I'm like, nope, that's wrong. Anyway, Phillies lost 9-1 to the Toronto Blue Jays. They took one of the three, so it was not a sweep. However, the series before that, they were swept by the Milwaukee Brewers. So Rhys Hoskins, that was in Milwaukee. That was in Philly.
No, it was in Philly.
Milwaukee. So Rhys comes into town, sweeps them at home, leaves. Phillies go to Toronto. They lose 2 of 3. So believe it or not, Andrew, the entire Philadelphia sports talk show fan base is panicking. We are, what was it? I was listening to the Phillies post game today, and Michael Barkan, if I'm saying his name right, he's only like super famous, and I can't say his name, but he mentioned very specifically, Phillies lose 6 of their last 7. Something's wrong with the Phillies. Phillies are on a losing streak. Phillies are doomed. Blah 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 blah. Look, Phillies lost, bad loss, and they've had some ugly losses, and I do want to talk about it. Like, I don't want to sweep under the rug these ugly losses, but it amuses me that we are a month later having the exact conversation we just had. Like, no joke. Go through our YouTube channel, like, comment, subscribe. Go through our YouTube channel. Go through Spotify. And a month ago, there's an episode titled something along the lines of "Don't Panic," and here we are, and I'm like, "Don't panic." Now, maybe Andrew's going to tell me to panic. Maybe I'm totally off base here. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and I am assuming Andrew's not panicking. Mind you, Andrew has a pretty well-composed setting at all times, so he's just really good like that. But I think we don't need to panic, and I have some pretty resourceful reasons why. And I'll tell you what, we're day 3 into the month of June. Day 5. Wow, time is flying by. We're day 5 into the month of June. So I wanted to come in here fully prepared with the stats of May, which has completely wrapped up, obviously, now being in the month of June. And with that, I wanted to specifically talk about the winning, because Barkan said, oh, well, the Phillies have lost 6 of their last 7. Understandable. That's bad. That's really bad. Close the rafters, buckle up. We're here for a storm, apparently. Andrew, do you know what the Phillies' record was in the month of May?
19-9.
19-9. 19-9. I believe the most wins in any MLB team for the baseball.
Sport.
So much so that the Phillies outperformed every other team on average by 18%, I think, if I calculated correctly and did my stats correctly. So much so. And yet the first thing, look, again, it was a bad game. The Phillies lost 9-1. Every right to be, oh, that sucks. The real thing to talk about right now is Luzardo, which I want to get into. We should absolutely talk about Luzardo, what's going on with him. But I don't think the Phillies, we are jumping ship. It is absurd to have that mentality. Barkan and the postgame show talking about how this Phillies team just does not appear to care anymore, that they've thrown all emotion out the door or out the window. Someone said they just said they don't care, and they look like a team that doesn't want to win. And again, I can't sit here but laugh at that statement when I'm looking at this team that has been so utterly dominant in the past month. Yes, the past 2 series have been bad. You go into Pittsburgh, literally into the city of Pittsburgh, hoping to Get a winning, get a pickup series basically. Sometimes you lose against the good teams and you need to win against the bad teams, and that's exactly what's happening here. Mind you, they don't play well in Pittsburgh historically speaking, but again, we'll get into all that. I'm sitting here laughing. I can't take any of it seriously from post game, but maybe Andrew's on the other side, folks. Maybe I'm absolutely in shambles here in a second because Andrew is concerned out of his mind. Andrew, are you scared for the Phillies right now?
No, I'm not scared. I think there's a lot that's gone into it the last week since that Atlanta Braves series, and I think a lot of different factors have come down and affected this team this past week. And it's just something, it's baseball. It's a 162 game season. It's a long year. You're gonna go through ups and downs, and I think most recently you just had something affect them. And I think I mean, I hate to dive back into it because it was a week ago, but I think the Bryce Harper getting hit in the arm affected it. You didn't really do anything to back him up, and I think that kind of played into it a little bit. You were without Harper for 6 straight games, and I think so that went into a lot of different things. You didn't have him in the Brewers series. I think a lot of the panicking comes from, this was the second horrendous game this week. It wasn't like,
Right.
you lost a bunch of 4-3, 2-1, 5-3, whatever you want, close game score you want to say. And instead, you had the really bad game against the Brewers where Jesus Luzardo gives up 12 runs. You have today's game. That game finished 17-7. Today's game finished 9-1. And you had 2 games in the last week here that you had to bring in Weston Wilson to pitch and close out the game. And that's when you know it's over, when you're bringing in a position player. So I think that's part of where the panicking comes from. It's stuff from the past that's in everybody's head. You can point to the Trey Turner error the other day in that final game against Milwaukee, and now everyone's saying, Trey Turner's bad fielding again and all that, just sparking from last year, where in reality, he really hasn't been that bad of a fielder this season. So I think it's been a lot of different factors over the last week, and I think it stems from this team hasn't looked the same since Harper got hit in the arm. And I think part of it, I think you didn't retaliate at all in that series. And I think, just that one little spark, keeps the team within each other. And I think you kind of had that affect them a little bit before. And now you're kind of playing, you had that tough stretch against Milwaukee, who was playing very good baseball right now. They're 9-1 in the last 10 games. And you faced a good Toronto team on the road. So you faced 2 good teams at a tough time in your spot. And like you said, you were 19-9 overall in May. So that means before that Brewers series where you got swept, you went into that series 19-6. So I mean, it was just a tough. Or excuse me, I think Sunday was actually June 1st. So 19-7 going into that Brewers series, and so a lot of different things. No need to panic. Again, it's June 5th, as you mentioned already, Zach, and there's plenty of baseball left. And it's not like we're 500 trying to catch up and get into the postseason in a postseason spot. You're well over 500 right now. You're coming off a very good month. You just got off to a slow start in June. Trust me, there's plenty of baseball left in June, and this team will be over 500 for the month of June.
I do think it's interesting, right? Like, so you talk about sweeping or taking care of business against bad teams and losing against good teams, right? Which I thought that was an interesting argument for them to bring up in post game because that's kind of the thing in Philly we've historically argued you have to do. So it's like we get super angry when we lose against the bad teams and then win against the good teams. It's like that's more of a moral victory. Well, here we've lost against the good teams and we're winning against the bad teams. I don't think that shows that the Phillies aren't contenders by any means. I think it shows that there are things the Phillies need to fix. I think that's certainly something up for conversation. But I think that shows the Phillies take care of business. I mean, just looking at the past, the Phillies won against the Brave, right? 2 out of 3. That's great. They swept the Colorado Rockies in a 4-game series. Now, I know the Rockies are literally last place in the whole MLB. And then they swept the Pirates.
Bad pace.
And then they swept the Pirates. And I don't know. It amuses me to not be happy with going out and stacking wins in these situations and then going and losing. Like, if we were coming in here upset about being swept by Milwaukee, I think that's a valid argument. I think it's valid to be upset that you were swept by a team at your house. That's kind of one of those conversations where that's where I think it's important to be like, that's the bare minimum to show your aggression, to show your performance is don't get swept, right? They got swept, and you pick yourself up, you move on, and to me, they kind of did that with Toronto, right? They got the first win. They probably should have won game two, and unfortunately, Luzardo gives up game three. And I think the Luzardo thing is the issue we really got to focus on with him giving up. Man, was it 12? He gave up 12 runs
Yep.
of the 17, and
Which
it's
should
just
have been left in that one.
right.
There's
He
no
should
other
not have been
argument.
let. That was crazy. But like, does that simply mean Luzardo has a tell that is being taken advantage of?
Yeah. So there's multiple different factors in it. He obviously got off to a fantastic start. So when he's getting off that fantastic start, he's eating up a lot more innings than he's probably used to start the season. So you could be seeing a little bit, maybe just stress on the arm a little bit right now, and that's catching up to him because his velocity was down a little bit in today's game against Toronto. Or you could be seeing, like you said, he might be tipping his pitches a little bit. Obviously, a lot of teams are going to go in and watch him, and he's throwing that good. They're going to study him extra. And maybe they found something in his windup and in the stretch. Maybe he might be moving his glove a certain way, which is tipping to the batter that it's going to be a breaking ball, or he's not doing something and it's going to be a fastball. So those are all the different things that those coaches and players dive into, ins and outs with film. So it's on him now to make that adjustment. It's on him and Caleb Cotham, the pitching coach, to dive in, go back, look at these last two starts, figure out, is he doing something that's showing which pitch he's going to throw? Is he doing something? Is he not finishing his throw or something along the lines of that? And what is he doing that is giving away? Because obviously, he was on to a historic, fantastic start with this Phillies team, right? They showed the stat in today's game. In his first 11 starts, he allowed 16 runs. In his last two starts, he's allowed 20 runs. So obviously, he's doing something. With him, I'm going to give him one more start before I think you sound the alarm. I mean, I try to look at it as the opposite, right? If a guy's struggling and we see him come back with two fantastic games, it's like, okay, it's two games, right? You want to see that next one is see him actually. So I kind of the same way when you're struggling. I mean, it'd be different if he didn't get off to a good start, but I mean, the 11 starts he showed us, that wasn't a fluke, right? It was 11 fantastic starts to start the year. He went from, I mean, it's just amazing looking at his ERA. He went from a 1.95 ERA to over 4 the last two starts.
And you kind of
So
said it with with his. You mentioned it earlier, but I know Luzardo right now is sitting at a 5-2 record, right? And I feel like the only like a good pitcher with a 5-2 record, like you would be happy with a 5-2 record, right? Like that. Sure, that maybe you're not that Cy Young candidate you were a month ago or a week ago, even, but whatever. But like you're still not like jumping ship at Luzardo. It's just there is some concern there, and I like that you're saying that it's not so much a what is wrong as much as it is all right, you get one more shot to see, is it something you can shake off or whatever, like is it something he can pick up and figure out on his own. I think he's I had a thought and I lost it, but I'll throw it to you, Andrew. Like as far as a good starting rotation pitcher goes, I mean, it's not like we're taking him out of the rotation. Do you maybe bench him a little longer before that next start though?
no, I think you got to keep him on trajectory for his next start. I think you got to keep his confidence level there. I think if you kind of mess with anything, that can hurt something even more than maybe what it is at right now. I mean, unless something's obviously bothering him physically, right? If he's got any sort of tightness, then obviously, yeah, then they give him the extra day to try to get right. But I don't think it's anything injury wise. I think it's just more, it was two bad starts. I mean, it's baseball. It's a long year, right? I mean, we just talk about different. Let's talk about like just look at the hitters, right? We go through how bad of a year Alec Boehm had to start the year in April, right? And look what he did in the month of May, and now his numbers are back to close to normal. So it's just that's just the way it is, and it's tough being a pitcher compared to a hitter, right? You go 0 for 6, right, with 4 strikeouts. Let's just say you have tomorrow to go back and bounce back and even out those two
Right.
games, right? Well, when you're a pitcher, you're only going out there every fourth or fifth day as a starting pitcher. So yeah, he has to wait till next week to get back at it, and hopefully, it's something he's able to get done. Obviously, again, he's going through a tough stretch right now, but in the end, again, you traded for him for a reason. A lot of fans were excited for that trade because of what kind of a pitcher he can be and has been. And it's a shame because yeah, obviously now you look at his numbers, ERA wise and everything else outside his record, they're not that great, right? So it's a shame where these two starts have really put him because before that, you're looking at him for a top tier pitcher in baseball this season so far. But I think you got to stick with what it is. Obviously, Nola's on the IL right now, so I don't think you have. I love the depth we have at starting pitching, but you don't want to mess with it too much. So yeah, I say you just stay with what's rolling right now, and you just keep going through, and again, see what happens that third start next week. But hopefully, it gets back to normal, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think you have to mess with his spot.
I didn't want to jump to the Pirates game just yet, but I think I'm going to because kind of talking how you did about the depth of the starting pitchers. Were you surprised that Thompson announced that tomorrow's going to be a bullpen game? Because it sounded like Walker was supposed to or expected to pitch tomorrow, I believe, or maybe even Wheeler. But yeah, we have a bullpen game coming into Pittsburgh tomorrow. How do you feel about that? And maybe is there some, I don't want to say concern, but sure, let's be conflict. Is there some concern with Thompson right now looking at his starting pitchers?
Yeah, real quick. So yeah, like you said, Zach Wheeler's supposed to go today, but they put him on the paternity list because he's having a kid any day now. So they just told him to go home and get ready for the kid. And
The
I'm not sure.
audacity, the
Yeah, right.
audacity to go have a kid,
So yeah, so they skipped his spot today.
have a
Obviously,
cigarette, give your wife a
and,
call, and then get back in the game.
yeah, and then so they moved Lazardo up to today. And yeah, no, but to answer your question, I was completely shocked. I don't understand it if I'm being honest. Because you can't even blame today's game. They actually announced it right before it got leaked right before today's game that they're going to go with the bullpen game. And then he confirmed it after the game today. So I don't understand it. You called up a guy from the minors, Seth Johnson. I know he threw 2 innings today, but he could have gone tomorrow. He's been a starter. He started a little bit last year for us, and he's been stretched out. And then, like you just said, Taiwan Walker, he's another guy. He's been starting all year, back and forth. He's a guy that could have filled in tomorrow. I mean, my guess is I don't know. I don't think they actually announced who the starting pitcher is yet. I
Yeah,
know.
he did. Joe something.
Oh, is it Joe Ross?
Joe Ross.
Um,
Yes, he did. He
so
said it
that's
in
it.
the interview.
Okay, that's even more surprising. Then I'm not a fan of that, to be honest. I would have liked to see Johnson or Walker go and go from there. But I mean, hey, Joe Ross has been a starter before, so he can probably give you 2 to 3 innings to start the game. But then, I mean, you're gonna have to go use Walker or Seth Johnson anyway. So I don't, I don't know the difference, like in reality, because yeah, you're gonna have Ross go 2 or 3 to start the game, then you'll probably bring Walker in for another 2 or 3. So you're gonna go with the same guys. I would like to just see you say, "Hey, Walker, it's your day. Go give us 4 to 5 to start the game, and then go to the bullpen." But again, I think you hope you take advantage of a Pirates team, and I think that's where this one stems from. If I'm being honest,
I
I
think
think
everyone
it's
hopes to take advantage of a
yeah,
Pirates team.
yeah. So so I think that's kind of where this move comes from as well. I mean, I think they know their opponent, and that's what they're looking into here, and we'll see what happens tomorrow night. But obviously, on paper, it's a series you want, but when you're going into a game as a bullpen game, I mean, anything can happen. And then Sunday is the rematch against Paul Skeens, and obviously he's one of the best, if not the best pitcher in baseball. So anything can happen against him. And like you said, we've struggled in Pittsburgh in the past. So I hate to be a little negative here, but this isn't as much of a gimme as a series win as it
Oh,
should be on paper.
I don't think it's a gimme at all. Especially again, I always joke about it, but the Phillies just historically don't perform well in the city of Pittsburgh. Like I don't know what it is about Pittsburgh. They just typically don't come here and win the series. I believe they won last year, if I remember, and it was the first time in a while that I could recall. And Paul Skeens being someone that they're going to play against is a big deal because he's like the only player that Pirates have that matters. And it, I, the best way I could say this is it should be a gimme win. I hope it's gimme win the whole series. But you can't take anything for granted, especially if you're going to go into a bullpen game 1 against the Pirates. I just think that's a dangerous situation. I think that's a loose cannon situation. In my opinion, you use a bullpen game on Saturday because Skeens, you can't have a bullpen game with Skeens. You got to be prepared for that. I don't know. It says here that's going to be Sanchez, I think. But I don't know. I'm very curious what Thompson's going to do. I am fortunate enough. I'm going to be going to the game tomorrow against against the Pirates. I will be seeing the Friday game, and I also have tickets to the Sunday game, so I will be seeing Skeens. I believe that's my first time seeing Skeens pitch. I don't think I've seen him pitch before. So I'm excited to go to those games. Going to wear the powder blue Castellanos jersey tomorrow. Don't know what I'll wear on Sunday. Probably Harper pinstripe. We'll see. But excited to go to those games. So excited to represent. Usually Philly crowd turns out, especially this early enough in the summer. I think a lot of the Philly kids here for Pitt are probably still hanging around, and you're in and out of the city for some traveling anyway.
Yeah, and well, fans will show up too with how good the Phillies have been and how bad the Pirates are. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you.
exactly.
It'll be
Yeah,
fun Philly takeover again.
I would love to hear a "sell the team" chant. I saw a guy last weekend. I was with a bunch of guys from Pittsburgh, and there was this one guy wearing a hat. It just said "sell the team," black hat, yellow words, "sell the team." And I'm like, "That's Pirates hat." He's like, "Sure is." I was like, "That's awesome."
And just real quick, I mean, I couldn't find exactly home and away splits doing a quick research, but like just in general to show you how even it's been, even with how bad the Pirates are. Like last year, the Phillies went 3-4 against the Pirates. The year before that, they were 3-3. The year before that, they were 4-3, and then the year before that, they were 4-2. So yeah, there's not much separation here, and we all know the Pirates have not been great the last few years.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, I mean to your point, obviously you're splitting that. Yeah, you're good. And you got the sweep in Philly, so most important thing this weekend is get 2 out of 3.
I agree. I think there is some rivalry between the two teams, like in a not it's not a division rivalry for obviously, but I think there is some kind of fun lighthearted rivalry between them, and it just shows up in the best way, like in a good way. You know what I mean? So I think that about does it for us today. I think it's a nice clean podcast where we remind you guys that the Phillies just had one of the best months in all of baseball. Tough start to June, absolutely. But let's check back in a week and see what happens. And don't forget to check back in by following us on Spotify. Those numbers really help us out. We're doing really well. I can't stress enough. We really appreciate it. Our YouTube numbers are going up really well too. And again, we're having a fun time doing this, and we really appreciate everyone that's following along with us. So thank you very much for listening and watching. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Philly Sports Now, a Phillies fan podcast. You can find us on social media. Links are in the description below. As always, I feel like I'm completely mixing this up. I don't know what's going on. I'm tired as shit. It's been a long week. I'm out of here. Go Phils. I'll see you guys at PNC Park.